All right, so I want to talk about the major change on the input and output. How many of you actually have already tried today? Anyone? Has anyone already tried some kind of a level competition already before this meeting? No?
Does HSPC count?
No. Oh, well, no. It's different. HIPC use a different system. Yeah. So that's good. Okay. So that's why I want to, give this talk really soon today, so that tomorrow, Sunday or Monday, whenever you're trying to do, I want you to know that this is a new approach. Okay. Don't be surprised. All right. So let me actually share my screen and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So let me make one change here. All right, so first of all, the time, okay, the very first round of this competition start from today and all the way to 21st. I don't know if there's a time zone issue, but any of these 4 days, okay, you just pick a time point and then click on the button and start. And once you click on the button to start, you only have 4 hours to finish, okay? If you're, you again, make sure you have this non-stop 4 hours for you to try this. Very straightforward. Okay, just go to usao.org and then you make sure you already signed up account. I assume most of you already have an account. And then you click on the button to start and it will bring you these 3 questions. I think it will put you to the right level by default, which means that if there's the first time you go it, you will be placed in bronze level. If you already passed bronze level, you'll be placed in silver level. And then, the more you pass, the more level you will start with. Okay, so keep in mind about the date. Now, this is the major change you'll be able to see right now in the website, okay? So it actually says about this input and output approach. So this is the important change from last year. All submissions now use standard input and output, okay, instead of file input and output. All right, so you no longer need to open the file to read your input and output, and you need to actually read the rules, blah, blah, blah. So the most important change is right here, guys, okay? So they're changing from the file input and output into the standard input and output. All right, so this is quite different from what you have been practicing over the past months or year. Okay, normally, the USACO, if you use their submission system, you actually have to, use the file, read the data from file, and then write the data to the file as output. But now you do not need to use the file anymore. So to some extent, I think this one kind of simplified that process, but it's not really a big deal. Either way, I don't think that matters too much for your problem solving. I think the most difficult part is actual the algorithm. However, let me just explain what's going on here. What is the input, standard input and output? Anyone have any ideas? What does that mean? What is the standard input and output?
Isn't that like when somebody just type in the console?
Mhm. Yes, yes. So basically, first thing you should think about whenever we say about standard, it just means that if we're talking about output, it just go to the console. Okay, go to the screen. If it's the input, it coming from the keyboard. All right, so that's the by default the standard input and output. All right, so I don't really find any kind of a standard definition for this one, but it's basically the default device the computer will use for input and output. Now, keep in mind that it doesn't mean that always the keyboard and console. Okay, they can redirect input and output to some other sources. This is a little bit more advanced. I just want to mention that later on I will show the example while you're testing it, you will need to manually type and input this one. However, when the USAO is grading your work, there's nobody going to type it for you. So what they do is they redirect their test data from the file to your standard input so that your file can still run it. But from the participant point of view, you don't need to worry about all of those. You just need to know, okay, you stick with the easiest, simple, most straightforward approach to get data from the keyboard and then print it out on the screen. I see Ethan mentioned about print. That is standard output. Okay, so that's why I mentioned to some extent, this one makes the whole thing easier. So don't worry about it. All right. So, without saying all of this, I just want to, go straight into the code and then give you some more ideas. Okay. So I will try to show more examples. I'm pretty good at Python and Java. I forgot a lot of things on C++, but I know like a lot of you are also using C++, but I don't think that's a big deal. So I'll start from Python, okay? Standard input and output. Standard input means you call this thing called input. All right, so for example, let's say if you're building some kind of application, please input your username, right? So you can get your username in this way. All right, so if I run this code, as you can see, it prompts me to input the username. I'm gonna do my user and I hit enter, I finish the code. So if I want to see what's being stored here, I can just print username. Okay, let me try this again. I type a username user123, I hit enter, and then that gave me user123, right? Because I saved this result into this variable called username. Okay, so the way I do this one with the input, that is called standard input. Okay, this is probably something you already learned in the very, very early Python courses. Nothing complicated. All right, very, very straightforward. Now, obviously in Python, you want to be careful. For example, I want to input your balance. Okay, please input your bank account balance. All right, and then you can print balance. And then if you run it, all right, so you print the number. However, be careful, okay, what the type of this variable is, right? So for example, I want to do a balance. You make a deposit for 200. Can anyone tell me what's going to happen here?
It's gonna throw error because you can add it to the string.
Right. So only Devin is answering. Derek, what do you think?
You'll probably get what you put in plus
Oh,
plus 200, right?
Oh, really? Okay, let's try that, Derek. So this is my name, Derek, and then you got a balance of $1,000. Okay, so 1,000 plus 200, you're supposed to get 1,200, but they give an error. What
But
happened?
because right now the input is like a string, so you gotta make it an integer.
How do
Right?
we make it an integer?
I'm pretty sure you just put int and then parentheses around it.
Very good. Okay, so yeah, just be careful. This is only for Python. Okay, so whatever you input here is only the string. So turn that into integer so that you can do all the math. So if I run this again, okay, and then 1,000, and I hit enter, it's 1,200. So that is correct. All right, so this is called input, and then this is called output. Sorry, standard input, standard output. So as you do your question, you no longer need to process files. Okay, you would test it with this way by typing in keyboard, and then you output the result just using a standard print. Okay, just in case.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Wait, so in the competition, like, how do you have to like run it? Like, how are they gonna give you how are they gonna test your code using the test cases? Are they gonna like?
Yeah, good question, Derek. That's what I mentioned earlier. So they're still going to use the file to test it for sure. Okay, so the way they do it is they can have their own program. They read their content from the file, then they send it to your code so that they will simulate that kind of a standard input, using the content from the file. So they use some kind of file, like a data streaming redirect technique. Okay, so again, that's kind of out of the scope of the competition. You don't need to worry about it. But one thing for sure is there's no human being sitting there to type it for you. Okay, it's still done by files, by an automated approach. In the future, I will show you an example how that happens. So they can have a very simple command line in Linux, probably not in Windows, but in Linux, it's very easy to do one line of code, and then you can just redirect the input from the file to your keyboard. So that's possible.
Wait, but
You can
like,
also redirect your output from screen to printer to internet, all of those.
wait, but like, how will it look like in the competition? Will we have to like some special variables or something?
No, you don't need to do that. I'm gonna show you an example. Okay, so I'll show you an example, and then you'll be very clear. All right. So before I move on to this example, very quick, guys, in Java. Okay. So if I start a new one in Java, how many of you are going to do that in Java, guys? Can you type a yes if you're going to go with Java? Oh, good, Ethan. Very cool. All right. So with Java, and then this is the standard output, right? So if you run this one, it's going to print the hello world. Okay. Wow. A lot of Java guys. Good. All right. So standard input. So there might be different approach. The easiest one is use scanner, right? Has everybody use this one? And then you do system.in. Okay. This system.in is the standard input, for Java, which come from the keyboard. All right. This system.out is the standard output for Java, and I use a print. Okay. So for example, in the same example, I'm going to say, okay, username s.next line. This is my favorite approach to get the data. So you read things line by line. Obviously, you can read things by tokens, by integers, by different words, but process the whole line together, probably that's the easiest. All right. So I'm going to run the code, and that's going to prompt me for input something. But I think there will be some bugs here. See what's happening here. All right. So scanner is not recognized. Did anyone know how to fix it?
You'll need to import it.
Yeah, very good. Do you still remember what to import? Without,
I always search it up on Google.
yeah, searching is fine. If you have Eclipse, if you have IntelliJ, I think that also tells you very easily. But this is, again, searching is fine. Okay, so it's coming from a utility package. All right, so if I run this again. All right, yeah, this is kind of slow in REPL. I think that runs, and then now you can type the things username and hit enter. I didn't print it, but just show you how you actually process the input and output. All right, so scanner and system.out.print. Again, for C++, all right, so I don't want to show the example. Basic is the C out and the C in, all right, in C++. So just very quick here, if you go to C++, I think they gave you some basic, yeah, this one. This is the standard output, and then the standard input is C in, and then go to some kind of variable. All right. So again, I don't know how many of you are using C++, but same kind of approach, just a very basic input and output. All right. So that's kind of the concepts. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So let me show you a very, very simple, naive question. Okay. The question is so easy. I just want you to, understand how the input and output works. Okay, I don't want to use any of the real questions, and so I just make up this question. Okay, this is not a USACO question, but it's just too easy. So this is the input. All right, so let's say that the first line of the input gave you a number which represents the the size of the two-dimensional array. Like if I gave you 3, that means you're going to receive a 3x3 matrix, a total of 9 numbers. So if I give you a 4, you're going to have a 4x4 matrix. Okay. Now, if it's 3, then there will be 3 lines, obviously, because you got a 3x3, and then every line you're expecting to have 3 numbers separated by space. All right. So I'm sure if you've done USACO question, this is a very typical input that you see very often. Okay, so the output is really easy. I'm not really asking you to do anything special here. I just want you to get a sum of all these numbers. That's it. So for example, this 1, 2, 3, that's 6. 3 to 1, that's 6. 2 to 2 is 6. So the total output is 18. All right. Again, this is a fake question. It's really easy. I just want you to know how this one works. Okay. So any question about this question here? One more time. Okay. Your job is to calculate the sum of all these numbers in the matrix. The matrix size is determined by this number in the first line. If it is 3, it's going to be 3x3. And all you need to do is go through all these lines, figure out all these numbers, and then calculate the sum. Easy, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you, especially for those of you who has been doing all the file stuff. Okay, I want to show you the file approach first. Okay, so that you don't get too confused on that one. I want you to see the differences. Okay, I'm starting a Python program. I'm probably spend most of the time on Python today. All right, just because I know a lot of you are in bronze level, probably will go with Python. All right, now remember, guys, if you do the typical USACO, you get this data thing, the file. Okay, I'm gonna call this file as a data. Normally, it's called something called .in, right, as an input. Now, in this case, the input will be in the file, so it's a 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, and then 2, 2, 2, right? Very easy. And then normally when you test it, you'll probably create this file on your own local machine and run your code. We're gonna repeat the same thing. Now, in the Python, there's so many different ways to read a file. I will just create something very quick. Just open the file with the file name, and then I'm gonna specify, I'm gonna read the file. That's it, right? So then you can start from there, you can start to read the files. You have something called read line. That's something I normally use, right? So it's gonna read things line by line. You can also read lines that read the whole thing together. You can iterate that. I will just show you how to do the line by line. So for example, the first one, I'm gonna get this n, but it's gonna be a string, right? So I'll save it in the variable. I wanna make sure everything works. I'm gonna run it, all right? And now I can print this whole thing here, just to make sure I'm getting things from file. So as you can see, it prints a 3. That means I'm actually getting the very first line here, which is number 3. Okay, so everything good. Now, what I need to do next is, since I got 3 lines, I need to actually reiterate these 3 lines and then iterate all the numbers. Okay, so I can do a loop, right? So I can do a for in range, and I need to know how many lines. Now here is a string, right? So I need to turn that string into an integer. So I can say that, you know, as Derek mentioned, I can do an integer like this, okay? So that I got n. Now, obviously you can simplify the code directly here. I just want to show you all the steps. All right, now this is a loop. Now I want to iterate this for 3 times. Every time I want to read this one more time, file.readLine, and then I can print, make sure I'm actually getting it. Okay, so I'm gonna run this. All right, as you can see, I got the 3 first, that's coming from here. I print it out, and then I iterate for 3 times in the loop. And I read the line for 3 more times, so 1, 2, 3. And every time I got the line, I print it out. Okay, so far so good. But what I need now is I don't need actually a whole line. I need to split out the numbers because the numbers are separated by space, right? So what I need to do is I can just say that I'll create the numbers, but it's a string. Okay, I would say that it's coming from line split by the space, right? So now if I want to test it, I want to try what I'm getting. So I'm running this again. As you can see, it actually splitting all these numbers by space, 1, 2, 3. There is a new line character, but it doesn't matter. We can actually parse it. Okay, so now you're getting every line, and then you can split it. Now back into my algorithm, I need to sum up all these numbers, right? That's very easy. That's a different way you can do. I'm going to use my way. I would say that I'll call it total, or I call it sum. All right, initially it's 0. So every time when I see a number here, I will actually add it and aggregate it to my sum. Okay, so what I want to do now is I do another loop. Since this is a list, right? So I can just say that a number, I'll call it an S in the numbers string. Okay, and what I'm going to do is sum equal to sum plus integer ns. All right, so basically every time when I get the line, I split them, and then from there I iterate every number in the in this kind of a list, and I add them to the sum. So if you finish all of them, eventually when you print the sum, you should be able to see the result. So I'm running this one again. As you can see, the result is 18. All right, so that's how it works, right? So just read the line, split, and then add it together. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you already done this. Okay, that's basically how you process the file from the input, and then the only thing left is how do you output into the file, right? So to output the file, I can open the file again. Open the file. I'll say the data.out, and then this time I'm going to write in the file. So from there, I can say file.write. I want to write the sum, but I assume that you can only write a string. So I need to turn that into a string. And then finally, don't forget about closing the file. Otherwise, you may not see the result, right? So this time, guys, look at it here. Okay, it's going to generate the file. I'm going to run the code, and it generates data.out, and then you got this file, which has 18, right? So normally you finish our code at here, and then you download the code and then submit in the USACO system. It's going to process everything. You will see our result. Okay, so this is how you do the problem in the past. Okay, from this year, for some reason, they dropped this approach. I think that's a good move because, you know, processing the file isn't, it has benefit, but sometimes it just makes some extra work, especially for this, right? So, you know, why don't I just print it out to see the result? So now let me actually show you how you actually do this with a standard input. Okay, same question. All right. Anyone has question right now about this question here? All right. Did this one make sense? I mean, how about did this part make sense for you?
Wait, me? Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let me actually open another repo. Okay, same question, guys. All right, same question, and this time is standard input. Okay, I do not need to use the file anymore, but the input remains the same. It's still going to give you a 3 first, and then these numbers. Okay, now keep in mind that everything is processed line by line. Okay, that's the key. They're not going to give you a whole thing here together. As you do the standard input, you process line by line. That's the bottom line. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. Again, I told you that in Python, okay, you got this input. Okay, you might say, oh, I want to do something like please input your n. Okay, and then you got an n here. All right, so you do this one here, and then you specify n is 3. I think you can do it, but never do this thing. Okay, I don't think that's going to cause you trouble for submission. But don't risk yourself because that's going to complicate a lot of things, and it's really good for you to see it, but maybe the machine doesn't take it. All right, so don't write this whole thing. Okay, just assume that you're gonna first one get this number. Okay, so just do street with n. Okay, let's make sure we got this n, we print it. All right, so I'm gonna run this one here. Okay, nothing happened, but you should know that this one is waiting for you to input. I'm gonna type 3. All right, and then as you can see, I got this 3. That's it. All right, that's your first line and input. You're good. Now, you can expect that in the coming lines, people are going to give you all these numbers line by line. Okay, so what we should do is, okay, so this one is n, but this, again, this is not a integer. This is a string, right? So the best thing to do is I'm going to wrap this one as an integer. So I directly get n as, an integer. And I start a loop for I in range of n that many times. From there, I'm going to receive more inputs. All right, so I'm going to do a line, and I'll ask again from the standard input, and for a total of n times inside the loop. So this is what can happen. Okay, I'm going to run this code. 3. I will do 1, 2, 3, and it asks me again because there's a loop here, and it's going to be 3, 2, 1. And then still asking me, so I'm going to do type 2, 2, 2, and then the code is finished. All right, so that's how standard input works, especially when you are running your code. That's what you're supposed to do, because now you don't have the file and everything.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
So for when the machine enters it, are they gonna include spaces or
It
is that
will.
not a thing?
So
So we
that's
need to get rid of the spaces, right?
No. You don't get rid of space. You follow exactly the format, because I mentioned that there is a space in the middle.
Yeah, but when we're calculating it, we need to get rid of the spaces to only have the numbers, right?
That's how your algorithm works, right? So let me finish this one. So if you got this one, I can again split the line with the space, just like what I did earlier. Okay, it's exactly the same thing like here. How I split the line and then iterate the numbers. So I'm gonna do like a numbers. I'll just be very clear. It's numbers in I'll do the line dot split, Okay, everyone should be very familiar with split. Okay, I think almost in every question you will need this. Okay, now once you split, this is the string, and then you're gonna iterate all the
他已
numbers
经7点钟开始，
in the
明
list.
天那个是 US Computer Use Olympic。
All right, and then from here, we're gonna basically parse it and then add the result. So before we do that, I need to specify my sum again. All right, and then from here, I'll do sum equal to sum plus integer and s. Okay, one more time, because here I split the whole line into 3 parts, but they're all strings. So that's why as I iterate them, I need to turn that into the integer. Okay, so finally I can see my sum. Run this, try one more time. Very careful. Okay, you can't type it wrong. Okay, it's 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, and then 2, 2, 2. All right, so you got 18. And the good thing is now you're finished, because this question is a standard output. This is standard output. So as long as you print out the result into a string like this, you're good. And then when they are testing your code, they can actually grab that output from your code, and then they will be able to compare that with their expected output. So they will see if you're right or wrong. So that's why I told you earlier, to some extent, this code actually gets simpler compared with the one using files, because for the file, you definitely need to do this one, you need to do this one, you need to worry about the file output and then the close things. It's definitely making things a little bit easier, I would say. But the downside that you can see, well, it's time you manually have to manually do this one. All right, so I think in an actual competition, okay, it depends. If your input is really easy and simple, I think you just manually type this one, totally fine. I think for most questions, just every time you type this once, I don't think it's gonna cost you a lot of time. However, if you really got a complicated input, okay, which has, for example, some of the silver level questions, they got a big map for you, like a big two-dimensional array, and you can't really type it by yourself every time. So that's probably a time that you could actually potentially switch to the file temporarily, and then as you submit, you switch it back. Okay, does that make sense? So because you see the file input, the really good benefits is that you don't have to type it every time. Okay, you just do this one and you debug your code until your result is right. So once the thing is correct, and I can simply replace it. For example, guys, I can just make this program. I don't need this one, and this part here will need to be an input, and I can comment it out. This one part here should be input. I'll just comment it out. And I think the rest should remain the same. Oh, by the way, here, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. All right, so if I run it, let's test it. Okay, I'm gonna do a 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. All right, so it still works. So, but then what I'm trying to show you guys is, as your test, you could still use the file input, because then you don't need to worry about this kind of a inputting anymore every time you type the same thing. But as you submit, make sure you delete these things and then change it back to the standard input.
So you have to like input you have to manually type in your inputs every time you test.
Yes, if you don't use the approach, you have to do it. That's why I mentioned if the input is simple, it's probably not a big deal. I mean, even if you do that every time, it shouldn't be a big deal. But if you got a giant like a matrix to type, I think it is a big deal. That's why you probably still want to know how to do that with the file. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but I guess it's definitely very helpful to be master for both. Well, certain inputs I think you can do with a string, right? That's also easy. For example, if you only need like one line of input, you can for sure just store as a string to test it out, right? So for example, I can just do like my test data. Okay, so if they're asking you some kind of number like this, and well, you can just do this one, and you will replace that with just your variable for testing purposes. Okay, and then before you submit, then you just change it back. Okay, you can always define this kind of variable to help you to debug. Oh yeah, so by the way, so yeah, some of you actually did mention that you could actually copy and paste those. That's also another thing. So for example here, okay, so I can you know, I will do this when I run it. So you know, if it again, let's assume that we got a long like input, you can just copy things here, and then oh maybe I can do the whole thing. Yeah, so you probably can just copy the whole thing. All right, let me try this again. Okay, I run this one, and then I'll copy this whole thing here. All right. Yeah, so that also works. That's perfect. Okay, so this is the best approach. Okay, thanks, Jay. Yeah, so guys, let me clarify. Okay, this one is probably even easier. Okay, you just simply copy the whole thing, and then input them all together one more time, and that's it. All right. Oh, by the way, let me actually get rid of the print. So that's gonna mess up everything. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so let me try this again. I'm gonna run it. I go back to my test data, Control A, Control C, Control V, hit enter, and you're good. Okay, so that means you don't really need to worry about the file. I think just stick with the standard input should be fine. All right, did you guys all see it? All right, now there is a very, very important thing, guys. I really want to highlight this one here. Okay, I want to play the slide first. Okay, now once the USACO changed into the standard output, okay, everyone now pay attention to this one slide. Okay, this is the most important point for tonight. Now, make sure you clean up your print statement before your submission, because right now, all this little print debugging things you have in the code matters, because they just look at your standard output. You know, you might, you know, debug a lot of things in the middle of their program. You guys probably have a lot of this print help you to understand what's going on. It's our good practice, but that's going to mess up your output, because, you know, the computer system will, the grading system will assume that that is your actual output. Okay, so that you cannot pass the program, never. Okay, even though you got your right program result printed at the end. Okay, so let me show you an example. That's exactly what happened right here. Let me go back to my code. Now, remember, previously I got this one here to make sure I got things correctly, right? So for example, here, I try to type in and try to print it out, make sure I got it. And then this one here, also I split the number, make sure I actually see that. That's why when I run the code, okay, I type a 3. This one here, print a 3. I type 1, 2, 3, and then this one here, print me the actual list. I do 2, 3, 1, it print me a list. I do 2, 2, 2, give me a list. All right. So this things, because I have this print here, it gave me all this debug information. It's super helpful because that gives you the confidence that your code is running in the correct way. Okay, and that also help you to figure out some of the potential mistakes and errors. But before you submit, make sure you do not have any of those. You can't have it, because if you have it, that counts as your output, and then your result will not be correct. Okay, so eventually when you submit, you can only have one part of the print, whether it's one number or multiple numbers, but make sure you only print what we expect to see. Otherwise, your program cannot be passed. All right, because that's how they deal with the standard input and output. In the past, it doesn't matter, because you're going to write your result into the file, even though you got some input, some print in the middle, it doesn't matter. But that doesn't work anymore. So I know a lot of you actually like to debug your program in adding a lot of print statements. These are all good. Just before you submit, make sure you don't have those. Okay, so back to this question, guys. Once, for example, right here, I test everything works. Just one more time, make sure everything is good. Okay, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, and 2, 2, 2. Result. Okay, so no debugging information, results are correct. Now all you need to do is just to submit this file, okay, to USACO website. That's it. They will be able to run yours and then grade yours and then get it correct. Okay, so Derek, back to your question. When you submit, this is what you're gonna submit. You just need to submit the one with input and then print. That's it. All right. You don't need to worry about how they actually test yours. As long as yours works here by this approach, it will pass.
So we submit with print instead of return than the other stuff.
Oh yeah, you print. You submit the print. You don't do return. For those of you who done the HTTP PC back in April or May, they use return. Okay, that's another approach. Okay, you just do print, Thomas. Okay, only print to the screen. The easiest and the best approach, I would say.
So we're not writing those def and stuff.
Which one, Thomas? Say it again.
Those like def stuff.
Function, right? Well, function you can still use that one. If you need to use function, go ahead and use the function. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you can process the input and then output, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
So this thing is recorded, so we didn't really understand it. We can relook it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna put this one online. Also, I will put some of the links also in the repo links. Oh, by the way, let me actually send these links. If you think these ones are helpful, let me actually send this in the here. This is one example. This is basically a cleaner version. Just did the question here. All right. Does anyone need a help on Java on how that works? I assume if you understand this one, you can figure out how the Java works. But if you need me to show you an example, just let me know.
Dr. Sun, I did a Java one. Can I share my screen to if I am doing this correctly?
Yeah, that would be great. So let's actually take a look at how Eric is doing this one. I'm gonna let you do share. And okay, Eric, go ahead.
So I use a scanner. Then so for example, I'll just rerun the program. Then I paste the thing. So 18 is being printed. So I use a string tokenizer for each line, right?
Yep.
But the part is different from Python is that, so look closely. When I paste the thing and I have to do an enter, I have to manually do an enter.
Oh yes, because when you paste it, you don't have a enter at the end. So if you paste the thing with right now you have 4 lines, right? But then if you paste the 5 lines thing with the 5th line to be empty, you don't need that. Try it.
Okay, so never mind, just retype everything.
Yeah, that's why, because you didn't paste, because that new line is a character. So if you don't have it, it will not show it. Yeah, do one more, and then if you can copy the 5 line, I think that's gonna work.
So just on top of bottom.
Yeah, that should work.
Yeah, it works. Okay.
So guys, so this is a very good version of the Java standard input. Okay, you can see you use a scanner here, system in. Okay, standard parenthesis system in, that's the standard input. And then from there, it's the same. You can get next line. You can then, once you get the next line, they use a string tokenizer to split it, or you can just use Java string dot split. That also works. And then the standard output is the same thing. Okay, look at Eric's code, line number 35. System.out.println, that is where you get the result. And then very important, guys, take a look at Eric's code, line number 26. Okay, that line of code, you must comment it out. You cannot have it before you submit. Okay, comment out, this is the right approach, but you cannot leave it here. But because if you leave it here, that's going to mess up your output. All right. Eric, could you do me a favor to paste this code into a repo Java and then send me a link?
Okay, I'll be doing this now.
Okay, thanks, Eric. All right. Any other questions? Calvin, since you're here, are you able to? Do you have a like a simple like C++ example, by any chance? Okay, yeah. If you have something up that you can show or send me a link, that'll be very very helpful. I know you are the expert on C++. All right. So how's everyone doing? So Devin, are you gonna pass Gold or Plantium?
I'm not sure. I'm not really prepared.
That's okay. You're too humble. Oh, Max is gonna pass Diamond. Oh, you're seeing Devin. Okay.
I'm not really prepared for the contest because like last time I asked Q or maybe I think I asked a teacher. I don't really remember who is it. That the teacher says that the contest like is moved to next year or something.
Yeah, so that's definitely I see that, Thomas. It's very weird. This year is so weird because they didn't announce this until actually 2 weeks ago, I think. But normally they announce it really early. Yeah, this year is very special. I know, all the high school students, you guys are so busy. I don't expect you guys have so much time to practice. But the thing about the USCO is that the one, everyone been doing this one, you will know it. It's actually really challenging. The level of this kind of questions are definitely above the, I would say, sophomore, junior year in college. Okay, so that means if you ask a junior or senior student in college, majored in computer science, they probably need to spend same amount of time to figure them out. Okay, you guys are so ahead of others already. Okay, so no matter how many questions you can pass, it already means a lot. Okay, these questions are no easy. If you're asking me right now to do some kind of a silver question, I'll be also struggling, to be honest. Okay, so it's difficult, but at the end, it's a very good practice. Now you got points. You don't have to pass it completely. Okay, you got points for every single test case you passed. Um, it's a very easy competition because you're just doing that on your own, and nobody's gonna bother you around. Just sit, relax, and on your computer, and then it's not difficult. Just get used to it. Okay. Now let me actually also share the screen. I think Kelvin just did a very quick C++ example. I'm gonna put it on the screen just in case some of you are doing the C++. All right, thanks so much. So anyway, so this is a very quick demonstration on this is standard output, and then this is standard input. All right, that's it. Just use all of this one to get your data and then output it. So same thing. All right, so I guess to summarize, okay, I think overall this one makes the whole process easier, not more complicated. And then the good tip is, appreciate Jay's input here. You copy paste the whole input into your console. That should work. Number three, do not leave those debugging print statement in your code because that's going to fail your program. All right. I think that's all I want to share today, guys. Any other questions?
Do you have the time to share some tips about how to determine if a question belongs to, like, for example, BFS, DFS, or binary search or something like that?
I think that's all about like experience. I don't think there's a special like if you see the keyword, then this one is. I don't think that exists. It's all about experience. The more you see, the faster you can figure it out.
Okay, then.
Yes, Kevin. Yeah. So for sure, yeah, I definitely see that's the classification, especially for silver, really helps. For bronze, doesn't matter because it's basically pretty much fundamental skills you should have. Yes, Richard. So I think I'm actually looking at the name. I would say we got today. Um, I think probably I would say 60%, over half. I would say over half are high school students, half are middle school. But the USCO, I think they're supposed to be high school students. Okay, so that's why it's not easy, guys. Definitely not something like a regular thing everyone doing. So if you can already try and participate USCO, if you haven't like given up, I think that's already good. Okay, we have a lot of students learning programming, but not everyone is ready for USCCO. So you should be proud of ourselves. Even if this first time doesn't work, and then try it again in January, try it again in February. I think in March there's another open. And to be honest, you can always try multiple times by creating another account and just for practicing purposes. Okay, so because that's how the competition works. Okay, just challenge yourself. At the end, guys, I just want to tell you that this is something very rewarding. Okay, especially if you're only in like middle school. Once you get to the high school, if you're taking some of the AP courses, you will find this is just a piece of cake. Okay, it's a great practice enhancement to your own coding skills. Right. By the way, Eric, any tip you can share to the bronze level?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so when you look at a question, you first just try how to brute force it, because I believe at least half of the bronze question will be able to solve with brute force. So you basically just if you try to use your human brain to solve the problem, you're basically just using computers to imitate every step your human brain is doing to brute force it. And if that doesn't work, if there's time or if there's time arrow or memory arrow, I guess you try some. So binary search will be a really easy and useful algorithm to implement it if it's needed, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great advice, guys. So for bronze question, brutal force always the easiest approach to come up with is also the most straightforward approach for us to do. And don't worry about the performance. Yes, some of the brutal force will not pass the time limit, but at least it give you some points. Sometimes you got lucky, you got 8 or 7 or 6 test cases passed. That's better than nothing. And also the point is that while you're working on brutal force, you might be able to see the opportunities to optimize it. Yeah. Max, I think we're right now only doing the silver because that's where some more advanced students where they are. So once they have passed silver, so we're gonna go to gold. And by the way, Kelvin, could you also share something on bronze, like in terms of practice? I remember you mentioned about the YouTube video or some of the, like how you practice summer. Right. So for when you do the questions, um, if you didn't know the answer, what happened? Then how did you help yourself? Okay. All right. Just sit and think. All right. Are there any good references you use? Because remember you mentioned about YouTube videos. All right. So yeah, so it's all about practice, guys. So you don't need the textbook. Just look at all the past years Brown question and just practice one by one. All right. Decimals. Derek, what do you mean? Oh, decimals graphing. What is that? Is that a tool that?
It's like a graphing calculator, but then because they have a good like graphs you can use, you can mark on it.
I see some students are using. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. This is a lot. Okay. Yeah, for sure. This is a lot. Max, you can feel free to use this one. Don't worry about it. Yeah, because we're talking about like a coding the algorithm. We're not talking about math. So if this one visualization help you, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easier to like just draw on it,
Uh-huh.
and then you could like, even if it's like changing positions, you could still use the number line.
Okay.
That's a good thing too, I think. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. That's very helpful. All right. Let me see any others. Devin, you want to share something for bronze? Some tips?
I think for Browns, mostly it's just brute force, and yeah, it's really just intuition.
Okay. Got it. So basically for bronze, just find out that most straightforward approach you can do and then do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
by
think
the way,
there's
sorry.
also like mental tricks. Like it's not really algorithm, but it's just kind of like tricks.
Okay. Got it. Oh, Josh, where do you find it? You go to the website. Okay, so you go to USACO. Okay, I know you just got started. Okay, so you go to contest here. You got to log in first. Otherwise, you can't. I don't think you can do it. You go to contest. You can see all the past year's questions. So, for example, you will look at the latest one in February, um, and then you go. This is the platinum, gold, silver, and then bronze. This one here. So they got a questions here, and then you can also submit your answer. Oh, I haven't tested this one out yet. I don't know if they already changed. They might already change this into the standard input all as well. Maybe not because this one still has a file. So I don't know. But yeah, so that's where you can find the questions. All right. So go to the USU website. Let me send this link here. All right. Any other questions? Matthew, are you ready for bronze? Matthew?
I guess.
I guess. Okay, good. And how about Lisa?
Maybe.
All right. I think you're doing very well. Uh, sounds good, guys. All right. Very, very good to see all of you. Okay. So yeah, keep practicing. It's it's a very good experience. But this is not just for 1 month, 1 week. This one should be something you do that consistently. All right. Devin, if you're still there, you want everyone to try your thing at the test, or you want to hold it for future?
Oh yeah, sure. That would be really cool.
Okay, so guys, I'm done with USEO. If you want to stay for another 5 or 10 minutes, we got a very cool project. Not only want to show it, but also at the test purpose, it's kind of a game related thing. It's a really cool game Devin made from scratch. Okay,
Thank you.
it require like it's a multiplayer game. Okay, so that's why since we got 30 people here, I think we can do some cool tests here. But again, if you got other thing to do, feel free to jump off. But definitely, I want to show this one to you. For those of you who are thinking about making some cool games, this will be a great example.
All right, I'm gonna send the link here. So it's a browser-based game. So
Yeah,
basically, you could just
yeah, everyone. Oh, sorry, interrupt. Then go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So basically, you could just go into there and type your username, and then you could just click on solo. And after you click on solo, it might wait for a while, and then it will let you choose your faction. It's a PvP game, so like there's two team, and the two team fight against each other.
Do we go solo?
Yeah, solo.
Okay. All right, guys. So there's a URL sent in the chat window. If you want to try this game, this one is done by from scratch by Devin. Okay, this is not some like online game there. So we made it. So it's a very cool. It's a multiplayer, real time, and then go ahead log in, see if that works.
The controls are press. So you see, there's a lot of chest in the map. Press I, and you could access the items. Just double click to grab them, and then after you grab them, you can press space to equip items. Oh, Iron Chancellor, who is this person?
Oh wow, a lot of people here. Okay. Why I don't have any inventory? Oh, who is hitting me?
Wait, hold. And if you press I, maybe you need to find another chest. Because other chests there might be items.
Oh,
So like here's the flag, and you could capture them for your faction.
so how I saw a leaderboard. How that works?
That I just asked the server for like all the players that came, and for each of them I just add them there. You could grab items from the chest by pressing I, and you could hit people by pressing left click. So like if you go to the chest, the purple chest, and you press I, there should be an inventory, and then you could grab stuff. And after you grab them, you press space, and now you could equip them.
Oh, press space. Okay, that's the part that I missed.
Oh, Dr. Sun has an arrow. I'm stabbing you from behind. Oh, I died. So like this game is intended to help with learning Spanish, but the Spanish part currently is not working, so it's just like a mad IO fighting game.
Okay, very cool. Where is the server?
Oh, the server is on DigitalOcean. It's like a free. It's not free, but it's I think it's easier to use than AWS.
So Kevin is asking why he's still alive when the health bar is gone.
Oh, that's probably because the monster part. The monster part, yeah, because the monster can kill your health locally, but it doesn't actually reduce your health on the server. And the client is kind of dumb, so it doesn't really know if you're dead or not. Only the server can tell a client if they're dead.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh.
And you could come here and capture the flag in the middle of the map. Yeah, the map is currently really small. There are like 2 settlements, and none of them has actual meanings yet, so you can't really do much with them.
So Devin, what did you use for develop this? Like,
I use Unity for like just the game, and for the server I use Node.js, and there's a really easy framework called Coliseus, and it basically does like, for Node.js I have socket.io for like real-time chat. It just revamps the socket.io so that you actually keep a state of the game.
Right.
And also, so like you don't actually have to write any socket code. It has a library wrapped around it.
Right. Very cool. All right, guys. Any feedback, comments on this game? What to improve? Yeah, very impressive. And Jerry, are you making anything recently? Jerry, are you there?
I think Jerry's in the chat.
Okay. Oh, you're making a Roblox game? Wow. All right, guys. Yeah, it was a fun night to chat with you. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna leave. I think I'll leave the meeting here. Okay, Devin, I'm gonna make you as a host just in case some people want to interact with you more. Okay. You will be a host, and then feel free to stay and chat, have fun. If you have more questions, feel free to try to message me. Okay.
Okay.
Here.
Adios.
Adios.
All right. Feel free to message.
Adios, amigo.
Adios.
All right, guys. I will see you next time. Okay.
See you, Nakazan.
See you guys.